Oh, yeah. You're going down, sis.
No! Not again!
Ryan! Kristen! Take out the garbage!
Mom!
No!
Take out the garbage or you're grounded!
1 minute!
That's it! You're grounded!
Mom! Homeschooling.
Cool.
That's all.
And that's it.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Car Ride Convos Grounded Edition. This is the second one we've ever done of this. It's not, super consistent like the regular Car Ride Convos. It was fine. We are joined today with Quinn David Furness of the Beantown Podcast. And this is the podcast that we kind of, just chill, hang out. It's mad chill. Like it's
Mad
just,
chill.
It's super mad chill.
Yes.
And we do some deep dives into really hyper-specific topics. And
Last time we talked about 90s nostalgia. Is that kind of what we
yeah.
did?
That's our growing up, the good and the bad, about how kind of
That's
weird
right.
things are in that era.
Yeah.
Like there was fruit roll-ups back then, but also 9/11. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
That took a turn.
so
Yeah.
That one had some fun graphics. I really liked the editing on that one.
Oh yeah, it was a good time. Had some laughs and some giggles, and got freaked out a bit. But
I was laughing at you, not with you.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's what we look for.
Right.
The problem is the laughs are so hard to come by that
Whatever we can get is
whatever
fine.
we can get.
Add us, with us, whatever.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So when I was trying to create this topic, I was like, what exactly do all three of us have in common? I was like, well,
White privilege.
white privilege. We are we are all three Caucasians of European descent.
Although we were watching that show with Anderson Cooper last night, and who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it called Roots?
No, that was the 90s show with the guy from Reading Rainbow.
Oh
Those
wow,
Roots.
yeah, that's like actually a bad thing to misplace.
Is it like Who
might
Do
be
You Think
called-
You Are or something?
Who do you
Is that
think
a
it's
different
either
show?
Who Do You Think You Are, or it's called Finding Your Roots.
Finding Your Roots?
I think those two are really good categories.
LeVar Burton.
Yeah,
Star Trek.
LeVar Burton
Been
was
going on
definitely in
his
Roots. That was pretty.
That was like his big thing.
Yeah. Let's see.
I can do anything. Yeah, a couple Grammys right there.
Is that from Reading Rainbow?
Yeah. Now we're gonna get sued for copyright.
No, it's 4 seconds. It's 4 seconds. It's no big deal.
PBS is gonna come hunt us down.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I don't really know what the show's called, and I don't really know. What would you look up on Google? Like, be like
Celebrities
finding their genealogy.
realizing how many slaves they owned back in the day.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's if you're white, you're opening up yourself to that sort of behavior. Those
Basically.
reveals, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the topic. Let's go foremost to the topic. The topic I tried to choose, aside from white privilege, European white descent, all these things, was we were all three of us homeschooled. Kind of specialized situations amongst the three of us, because we're not all from the same family, so it's a little different. But across the board, generally, we were homeschooled. And in addition to that, we all attended homeschool co-ops. And if you don't know, raise the roof. If you don't know what homeschool co-op is, it's basically educational communism. No, in a way, yes, but no. But basically, families would bring all their kids together, and they would create teachers, since it just so happened that all homeschoolers' parents were teachers.
Definitely.
Definitely. They all became teachers, and they would offer courses, and for us, it was only one day a week. Or actually, how was the Thursday thing
Thursdays
set up?
the classes were only offered for like kids through like middle school, basically. Like
because it got so popular that we had to expand.
But then they shut
2
that
days.
down by the time I was probably in like 8th or 9th grade. Like they just cut Thursdays out. So
Oh, they did?
really?
And
Wow.
everybody came on Tuesdays?
declining enrollment, you know.
Wow. Well, they had reasons for that.
Obama gets elected and Thursdays closed down. So talk about government regulations. You can't even have school on Thursdays anymore.
Seriously.
Save a fortune in Papa John's costs.
Yeah. I remember I kind of like, I don't know, I rarely went to Thursdays, you know?
I don't think we never had a reason to,
No.
because it was like the little kids up
Yeah.
until, what age did you say it was?
It was probably like 2007 or 2008 when they shut Thursdays down.
But wasn't it like it was like up to age?
Oh, when like
the
it was
sixth grade or
like
something,
it was
maybe?
around middle school.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
probably a little bit before that, but
Yeah.
no high schoolers. If you were there, then that means you had like a little sibling or something.
Right,
or
yeah, exactly.
I would go help out with choir sometimes, and then there was
yeah.
there's a cleaning crew on Thursdays too, because
yeah.
it was a different like set of people who did it, but
Gotcha.
Yeah, but Thursdays was like, they offered basketball practice in the morning, and that was like,
yeah, I would
Tuesday-
go there sometimes to do that.
Tuesday morning basketball was already like a joke, so Thursday morning basketball practice,
I remember
was
going
just
one time and
not
it was
even-
just like David's dunk contest, basically.
pretty much.
So-
Yeah, it's just.
Oh, and then I think we had Thursday like afternoon volleyball practice, but that was like when everybody was leaving, or
Leaving.
almost everybody was gone.
Yeah. Huh.
How about that gym floor that was carpeted, right?
Yeah, I'm sure I got all kinds of weird like
good
Yeah.
stuff.
Falling on that was no joke.
staph infections in my knees.
Yeah, but
Gross.
all three of us very different. I was homeschooled my entire life.
As was I.
Oh no, yeah, I'm thinking of your sister. Your sister started out until like the 2nd grade,
I
maybe.
think so, yeah.
And then she was regular schooled, American regular school. That's what we call it in America. If you're overseas, you get it. American regular school. And then
Yeah.
you started homeschool, went to the co-op, and then you finished at private school.
Well, the way that the Furness did it was, and my oldest brother actually went to public kindergarten. It was like the only time any one of us went to public school. But homeschool full-time through 8th grade, and then 9th and 10th grade you take one class at private school, partially to get math from like legit teachers, because our co-op was kind of hit or miss with math teachers, and then also to play sports. Not that our co-op sports like didn't exist to some capacity, but just get a little bit more organization and actually play like legit teams from around the state line.
Oh, yeah.
And then summer after sophomore year of high school, you would start taking classes at the community college. And by like junior, senior of high school, that was pretty much the full-time education was at the community college. Because I would take like one class at the co-op junior and senior year, just because I was technically graduating from there. One class at private school, so and then like 4 or 5 classes at the college. So 3 different institutions. It was lots of driving. Back when gas was like $4 a gallon.
Yeah,
no
so
kidding.
I remember
No
that.
joke.
I just got my driver's license, and I was like, maybe I don't want
Yeah, it's like you had to really plan your time wisely. It's like, do
It
I
was
really
brutal.
need to go get X, Y, and Z? No,
Yeah,
forget
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
yeah, it was a tough time.
Yeah.
And Rockford's a bit spread out. It's not like a hyper condensed city. Like it's pretty.
Yeah.
there's
Depending
some
on what side of I guess
spaces.
what side of the city you live.
I just
but
remember-
we usually had to drive a ways because we were
living
like,
over on the
East
east
Yeah.
side. I just remember like just the zigzag to get
That's
over
true.
to the community
Yeah.
college. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, as opposed to getting to Temple Baptist where the co-op was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was not. I mean, I walked there. I mean,
Oh,
literally
yeah, you're close
the
enough.
original. You never went to the original Hallstrom building, right?
I mean, I was never like going there to take classes. I would be there like when my older brothers were taking classes there. But
that's like literally a block from my house.
Yeah, you live right there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I
That's
never went to
where,
that either.
Dave's church is now. They've moved into that building.
Dave.
Yeah.
Dude, who is that?
Oh, from the Rock Church, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wasn't part of the whole Rock Church drama. I didn't.
I went to what was the name of the youth group that they did like on Wednesday nights? Was it Wednesday nights?
Like a Rock Church youth group?
Yeah, where he like led it. Because
Yeah.
I went to that like a few times.
No.
They cycled through.
He was
a number of
really
different
nice. I
names.
really liked him.
I love that, like, we haven't name dropped anyone except for, like, some, like, I guess high-level pastor. Like, in his,
Yeah.
your sister, my brother.
I know. Yeah.
David. Like, this guy. It's like, whoa.
It's all right. It's going to make it big. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah. I
Okay.
moved into that building.
That's interesting.
Nice.
I remember I went, my dad, because it was just a close building after my mom and dad separated, was like, hey, you want to go to this church down here at this Hallstrom Center? I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, like, I go to Hallstrom. It's probably, like, generally the same kind of people.
Yeah.
And, like, we're talking, like, I was just, like, shown the way, like, in that, like, I was like, oh, I can get, like, a cherry Coke and, like, walk in and, like, worship. Like, this is dope. And then, like, the lights were, like, next level. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we're talking, like, you know, Moses trying to look at God and it just blinding you, you know? Like, that's what my experience was. And then when the music started, oh, man, the dancing. Yeah, I mean, it was just, like,
Oh,
I'm used to
wow.
maybe people going, like, you know, doing, like, the church woot-woot, but it turned into a lot of cartwheels down the
Oh, yeah.
thing, and I was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
They were, like, I think it was technically Pentecostal, I think, those people who believe that, like, literally believe that
Hardcore.
the Holy Spirit can, like, enter them. Phrasing, but...
Oh, okay. No, because I went to a church service. I can't remember who it was, but they had like popcorn in the back, I think.
yeah.
And like
yeah.
donuts and stuff in the morning. But
Oh,
I just
yeah.
remember thinking that the building itself, whatever like main room with this, you know, where we actually had service was fine. But I just remember like the hallways looked very like, this looks like it could be an old insane asylum.
Yeah,
type
no,
of-
just the general lighting in the original Hallstrom building was really messed up.
Yeah, it
Like,
looked a little
was-
creepy, but
yeah, like
I'd only been there once.
like, you know, your memories from back when you're very little are already so fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think back to, I took gym and I took a science class with Kirsten's mom.
Oh,
And that was literally, to get to that class, was like you had to walk out the building and then walk through those glass doors at the bottom of the thing or whatever. It was crazy. But like the dim lighting, because my memories from them are already so foggy, that it's
Yeah.
just like adds an additional tint. I was like, it was dark back then. It was really dark. How did we play dodgeball? I don't know. So
interesting.
it was interesting. And then I think back then, before the student council formed, the parents would like make like potluck meals every lunch for kids, and generally it was just like huge vats of like mastacholi and like pasta and stuff. And I never
Yeah.
ate it, but I remember smelling it. It smelled good. But it's like that normally was like the smell, which is weird because you think like that when you're a kid. That was the smell that they were bringing in the mastacholi. That means gym is wrapping up and I need to start walking home now.
Like Pavlov's dogs. type of
Exactly. It's
situation.
really weird, except for I was a human child.
Well,
So-
you know, I think we're all animals to some degree.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of life. I also went to an additional school later on.
And where was that located? Because I only know when it moved to, like, was it Riverside? That it moved into that tiny little building, which was kind of across the street from the Walmart? Or no?
Oh, yeah, no, I never went to that one.
Okay.
It started
Where was
moving
it
buildings
originally?
after. So the school is called SHCC, Sacred Heart Classical Center.
Okay.
But actually, like, there was another place that was out of Kinrock, the community center, that was like the same exact. I think it was just called Sacred Heart, and there was this random like happenstance that two people made a co-op, and they were like the same name and stuff. So the original Sacred Heart Classical Center was in the basement of a nursing home.
How did you guys nab that location?
I have no. So there was. Do you know what Cantorai is? Cantorai?
Connery.
That
It was
sounds really
it was like
familiar.
a
Singing Boys of Rockford.
Oh,
Yes.
yes!
And they're kind of like
Because
a,
Since we're in that, right?
Yeah, like and stuff.
Yeah, like a lot
of people. Yeah. I should stop naming people.
Yeah, we should probably. Yeah, the kid.
Those guys.
It's whatever.
Anyway.
So, Cantor, I was down there at the location, and so they just had this additional couple rooms down there that they were like, oh yeah, and it was. It is a weird. I've seen some things down there in that basement that I thought was very strange. It's just like
Conroy.
Oh yeah, like Conroy. Yeah, staying too late on a Monday or Wednesday, and the Conroy kids come in.
So why was there like so much space in the basement of a nursing home? Like, was there interaction with the residents of the nursing home in the basement?
With interactions with the staff, with the residents, depending on if they wandered the wrong way. After a while, we started doing community work where they wanted us to go up there and interact and like do things with the elderly people. So it's like I really got a firsthand knowledge of like what dementia and Alzheimer's is.
I feel like that's like the number one. Like when you're 12, that's like the scariest thing you can have.
Oh, it's
ask somebody like to do.
We started realizing that if you mess with these people in a certain way, that like they would respond like children, like babies, which was very strange. Like so, we would play this thing like hey Ryan and Johnny, go upstairs and you have to go play catch. And I was like, okay, so we go play catch. We take these like stress balls and we throw them. We get everybody in a circle and throw them back and forth. These old people and talk to them and kind of stimulate them.
Yeah.
Started realizing that if you give them a good old pump fake, they'd actually get pretty upset. Like they'd be like, stop it! That is no. Like it was just like little kid stuff that I was like, that's like you're acting like a child. And so I started realizing that like. What a degenerative disease is, which is really interesting. One of the ladies we had down there gave a talk about surviving the Great Depression, and she said that her littlest brother got ate by a pig, and I don't know if she was...
What?
The pigs were so hungry they started eating rats and stuff like that, and then I guess like the kid slipped and fell into the pen or something. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know that that's true. But
either way, though, that's a little horrifying for a kid to hear.
Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, she's giving a talk. She must be like a very young old person, like 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
This lady was like 98 years old, and I was like, what'd be funny? Is if she was just making all of this up. And she was like, yeah, I've never...
What would make a great story?
I lived in Italy during the Great Depression. It was fine. And also experienced World War II.
Oh, God.
So never mind.
Interesting. That's an interesting place to educate the young.
It's the weirdest place you could possibly be a part of.
I feel like that's true to, like, the community of, like, what we know, of, like, what the homeschooling community was. So it's kind of like, you're on a budget already.
Yeah.
Let's find the easiest... weirdest place to like educate our children and have someone who's just decided to be a teacher that morning to teach a class that they may or may not know.
Well, the good thing about Mr. School is he did have other teachers, but I'd say there was a couple of them, Mr. being one of them in particular, that they're brilliant people. I mean, they're very... Oh,
and I'm not discounting him per se.
No, I know, but it's like when it comes to a larger setting, which I'm sure he probably had brought in teachers at some time that he was just like, no, I would never, like, I'm doing this out of desperation. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but on Hallstrom, I was just always laughing, and I was like, this person is teaching this class? I was like, wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
It is what it is. I got, we all survived. I guess that's the one thing you need to take away from this podcast, is that we're all alive, so...
I think the thing, like, that we were just kind of sort of touching on yesterday is the fact that, people ask me, because for whatever reason, it's, like, fascinating to people when I say that I'm homeschooled. It's like, oh, my God, like, you all of a sudden have two heads, and they're looking at you like, oh, my God, like, whatever. But, like, just the questions about any type of, like, regulated anything, I don't know the answer to, especially back then, because I do feel like it probably wasn't as organized, and, I mean, I think Illinois maybe... where we were specifically had like a relatively big like homeschooling community. I don't know if that's true about the rest of the country or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how all that stuff works. I just know like that there was no standardized testing. There were standardized tests that you could kind of like make sure that you're keeping your kids on the right track. That I know like some really hardcore homeschoolers would do like every year or whatever. But the fact that there was nothing specifically that I feel like, to my knowledge, had to be like sent in to show you know what I mean? Progress of your kids, like that you're in any way fit to homeschool your children. Is so strange to me. And then, like we were saying the other day, you and I kind of went to Rock Valley. I mean, I'm not stupid, but I know that I'm not like a genius. But when I got to Rock Valley, which is the community college in our area, kind of was just like, you're like, okay, well, I hope that I have the ability to get into college, which was fine for both of us. Like, if anything, like, you know, it was totally fine. But it's just, that's kind of the point where you're like, this is the most standardized thing that I've taken, where I'm really going to find out, like, if my whole upbringing has been, like, a total joke. Like, did you guys have anything did your mom, like, try to keep you on the right track as far as, like...
I mean, there were definitely, like, standardized tests that they would offer, like, annually at Temple Baptist.
Iowa Basic Skills.
Yes.
I think we would do that, like, every other year. But, I don't know, I took the SAT for the first time when I was in 8th grade. So, like, from there, you know, all throughout high school, I was... Not that, you know, that's not the same thing as, like, proficiency tests for your education, but kind of, you know, once you get to that level, it's like, okay, we're just going to do SAT and ACT now, and that's our test. So.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then we also had to do the, I don't know if you guys ever did this, the Greek mythology exam each year. There was like a,
Whoa.
It was a big thing, and so we had this huge, like, yellow book of, like, the most popular Greek and Roman myths and, like, all the origin stories of the gods, like Avengers, but less cool. And, but actually really beneficial. Like, I'll be playing, you know, there was a trivia question the other night at the bar I play at, and it was, who are the parents of Zeus? And, like, any random person without that sort of, like, education probably isn't going to know that, because it's, like, Cronus and Rhea. Like, not the popular Greek gods, but... and there was this test every year as, like, a national thing up until, like, middle school or something, and you take it, and I don't remember exactly, like, I don't remember there ever being anything, like, beyond the test, like, you just take it and whatever, but I just remember feeling a ton of anxiety and pressure, like, to do really well on that test, and I don't remember why.
That is so fascinating.
Like, of all the things to have, like be,
Greek
like...
mythology?
Yeah.
It was just, like, a big thing every year, and they would, like, ship the tests to our house, I think, and we fill them out in, like, a Scantron bubble form thing.
Oh, wow.
And it was, like, this huge, big thing in our family that I always felt so nervous about, but...
Wow,
that's so crazy.
I hadn't thought about that in a long time until we talked about this.
But. I know. That's so... Like, because I was, like... I feel like I was surrounded, like... by people that, I mean, that was just like a no-no. That, like, you may as well be taking, like, a witchcraft test.
Like Greek mythology.
Like, that was like, that's the people that that the Bible was like, no, you're wrong about Jupiter and Saturn. You know, it's like, all this stuff. So
it's like the same people who'd be like, Lord of the Rings is, like, about God, but, like, don't look at Harry Potter. Narnia is about Jesus, too.
C.S.
Like,
Lewis
what?
is great, but J.K. Rowling is the devil.
And, like, Pokemon was, like, like, dude, when that was big, I was like, man, I love Pokemon, but I would never, ever talk about it at Hallstrom, because people were like, you're going to go to hell. And I'm like, whoa, yikes. I never got into Harry Potter, so I didn't have to deal with that sort of stigma, but that was also a stigma. And then, like you guys said, like, I remember one time as, like, a joke, which, you know, this is how edgy I was in, like, middle/high school, but at Mr. School, like, everybody was just crazy about, like, C.S. Lewis and, like, Narnia. Whoever wrote what's his face?
J.R.R. Tolkien, it was Lord of the Rings.
Sorry, Narnia. Yeah, I'm mixing them. So C.S. Lewis is Narnia, Tolkien is Lord of the Rings. They love that stuff, which, you know, reading Lord of the Rings, I was like, if you're thinking there's, like, principles in here, I think you're pulling it, like, you're getting close, but whatever. And so one time I wrote a book report at Mr. School on the Golden Compass, if you know anything about that book. I just wanted to be edgy, and I was like, this is so stupid. And basically, I think you remember writing something like, this is not one of the books you can read. And I was like, great. Because there were certain things that he was like, legitimately would be like, hey, can I do a book report on Harry Potter? And he's like, absolutely not. He's like, that's so stupid. And which... Like, again, I'm not, like, a Harry Potter. I wish I could be, but it's like I try reading them, and they're, like, they're legitimately written for like children. So it's like difficult for me to like. It's a difficult thing for me to roll into now. J.K. Rowling, I know you're a huge listener of the podcast, but can you write some adult versions of that stuff so I can like get on that?
So how much Harry Potter did you like try to get yourself into?
Oh, just the first book.
Trying to here's the thing with Harry Potter, and I read it for all 7 books for the first time this past fall. Yeah. The first one is very much a children's novel.
Okay.
By about the third one, it starts to transition, and then by the time you get to the last one, like it's pretty.
There's some really dark. Yeah, it's very dark. There's a lot of dark concepts.
She actually adjusted her novels with the age of her audience pretty much.
And the age of the characters. I mean, he's...
Oh, sure.
Starts when he's like 12 and he finishes when like 18 or something.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it progresses as...
So just power through the first 3 and then I can start making it into like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
encouraging.
I
mean, the first 2 at least are like verbatim with the movies, so just waste an hour and a half of your time and then just read the rest of them.
Yeah, that's true. I remember liking the second movie. I was like, this one's like fun. But I'm like, of course, there's like a giant snake in it, so it's like, I love that stuff. So
because awesome. You are 5.
I just love giant monsters. They're so cool.
I know. Yeah.
I wish she had more Godzilla in her books, or in her movies, but you know.
Well, you know.
I think that's copyrighted.
It probably is, and probably cultural appropriation somehow.
Yep. Somehow. Yeah.
But yeah, I did the IO Basic Skills test. That's what I did. Did those every year.
Oh, you did? See, we
didn't.
Like, when my mom
offered them. And he was like, hey, just let you know, I'll sit down with your kids and just, like, I will administer them, make sure they have their half an hour on each subject or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And when I was in 4th or 5th grade, I scored a 10th or 11th grade on vocabulary and, like, literally remedial and everything else. And every year since then, it stayed at 10th or 11th, whatever it was, as my age progressed. And, like, I remember when I had passed, my last one, and I was a year older than whatever grade I scored.
Yeah.
I still got 10th or whatever. It just never changed.
I mean, it's not to say, like, obviously it's not like we didn't take any tests, because we did. And
yeah.
You know, we go off of, the thing that I think I liked about homeschooling, one of probably a few things, is that I feel like it was a little bit more catered to, like, oh, if you're doing really well in this subject, you don't have to be, you know, just monotonous, like being like, okay, well, whatever, I'm in 9th grade, so I have to do like 9th grade level this or whatever. Or like you were saying, like we started Rock Valley when we were juniors, senior, you know, whatever. So you could at least like kind of go at the pace that you were actually being educated at, which I liked. Yeah. But, so I think as far as like we catered obviously to like whatever our learning growth was in whatever subjects, like the programs that we had, we'd purchase, like, you know, the according grade or whatever that you're going off of. So, I mean, it's not like we didn't take tests, we did. Yeah. But as far as, like, standardized tests, I don't specifically remember. I mean, besides, like, the ACT and then thereon, you know, but I don't think we took any. What
was your guys' curriculum you used? Because mine was very Christian, homeschool based, and it was a Becca. I don't know.
We did a splash of a lot of things. We did a Becca. Cool. We did, I don't know, was Pathway Reader part of a Becca? Does anybody know what that is? Okay.
I'll look it up. Hold on. Just keep on going.
We did a couple. I mean, I feel like as we were getting older, my mom was trying to find something that was actually like sufficient to, you know, our age level. We tried a few things, like programs that we had found, like that was supposed to be like a whole entire curriculum online, which kind of like were hit or miss. So we kind of bounced around between a few things. Like there was some computer program that we did too, which wasn't super great, so we didn't do that for very long. But we didn't have like a set program that we stuck to our whole entire. Did you guys kind of stick to the same thing the whole entire time you were homeschooled? The same program?
No, it kind of fell apart.
Explains everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go.
Like this stuff. I'm getting like pictures of like that stuff. Very colorful.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that's with Milestone books, and I'm assuming they're not affiliated with the Becca.
Okay. So this was specifically just to like. Oh my God, they all look exactly the same.
Yeah.
You had like, it was vocabulary and reading and comprehension, where you'd have like a book that you would read like so many chapters of a day or whatever, and then you'd have vocabulary words that were included in those stories. But the stories, I mean, this must have been somewhat Christian based, because the stories were about like what seemed to be relatively like Amish almost type of families or farm families. Yeah. A lot of the first couple books were so boring because they were just basic stories about like goats running away and like not doing your chores on the farm. Like that.
Sounds like Dwight Schrute or something.
Kind of, yeah.
Shroot Farms.
But then you had like a workbook where you'd be asked questions about like, what happened in this story or, blah, 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 and then, spelling and that type of thing. But
yeah.
So that was specifically to like that subject. We kind of did like a splash of different things.
Yeah, it's an interesting existence.
I mean, it is. I think I know for a fact that I could not or would not want to homeschool my children.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we're gonna touch on that like a little bit later.
I won't say that quite yet, but
it's interesting, like kind of just like how it all kind of panned out, and there are definitely benefits to homeschooling. There are definite benefits, but I also there's also some not so beneficial things about it.
Well, I guess some of the things that I really liked about homeschooling, I liked that we had all that time with my mom growing up.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just we just did school and that was that.
Mm-hmm.
She was very, very open about her past, and she, wasn't the most, angelic human, which I totally appreciate. But she was very honest with, some of the mistakes she made. She gave us a lot of, street smarts that I feel I don't know, I guess there's a big difference between maybe the experience that I see from Lauren's high school experience, and because she went to school, I think it was from maybe 4th or 5th grade on in public school. So some of the life lessons, I guess, that I feel we learned very early on, or some of the critical thinking skills that we learned from just some of the predicaments that my mom we had all that time to talk through with my mom, and
Sure.
it was a more comprehensive education instead of just your math and science and reading and this is what you're going to learn. I liked the balance of that. I feel those years were so just insanely valuable to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand me when I say oh yeah, I learned so many street smarts for being homeschooled. And people are like, what do you mean? You never left the house. You didn't have any friends.
Well,
that's how homeschoolers are.
You have an instructor for street smarts, when you're homeschooled, as opposed to, I do understand the merits of the street smarts you learn outside, in public school and stuff like that. You learn it on your own without an instructor, and it's very much life lessons based.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you're out in the wild like that, you do have the ability to turn it off and be naive. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You're allowed to do that, as opposed to you can't escape your mom when you're in the confines of homeschooling, because she's going to tell you what's up.
Well, and I guess I just feel you're not totally left alone. I feel there were so many situations, Lauren, for example, or my younger sister. I mean, no fault of her own, really, but it's there are so many things, if you run into a situation, even with your peers, you're kind of left there to fend for yourself, and you kind of just get advice from people your age who have no idea what's going on either. You know what I mean? And I feel some of that gets jumbled, and yes, you can go to teachers and counselors and whatever, but you're not getting that one-on-one attention from the day-to-day aspect, as far as having obviously a more mature, trusted source of where your thought process is kind of being guided. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that I feel I appreciated.
Yeah. Did your mom work at all through the homeschooling process, or is she just straight always there?
No, I mean, there were 4 of us growing up, so my mom homeschooled us full time, and then probably when I was 12 or 13, around that age, right around 2008, when kind of shit hit the fan financially.
Yeah.
She got a job at the Discovery Center, actually.
Oh, really?
That's got to be the coolest
Oh, my
job
gosh.
ever.
And she hated it. So.
Oh, she hated it.
I mean, it was just a lot of cleaning up after 5-year-olds and that sort of thing. So she did that for a couple years, and then while she was doing that, she went back to school, and kind of the rest is history. Now she's going all the way. So
awesome.
Yeah, but no, not until I was probably 13 or so. She start working. So she finally pulled her weight. Finally, but So no, but it's a lot to raise 4 kids, and my dad worked a very intensive job hours-wise, so she had to do a lot of it. But yeah,
I feel you.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's awesome. Mine was a little bit different. My parents separated, and my mom, single, raising 5 kids, but she had multiple jobs.
Yeah,
so she was literally, until 5 p.m., was never home. So that's kind of where the trickiness of homeschooling comes in, where it's like, it's like really no fault of her own. You know what I'm saying? She
everybody's just trying to do their best.
Exactly. The thing is like, it can go both ways. Like, you can criticize, parenthood, and then just turn around and be like, yeah, well, you as a kid, like, that was a joke. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, I get it. But her main goal was, her main goal was to, like, shield us from that world. The public world and stuff like that. Which is, it's fine. It's admirable. You know what I'm saying? Because your parents are always looking out for your best interests. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily always, their prerogative. So when she did that, and we had our Becca books, like our assignments were literally just like 2 pages front and back today. And me being the person I was like, yeah, right.
You shouldn't have been homeschooled.
I know, that's the thing. And so I had zero motivation. I had zero understanding of what learning was.
Yeah.
And it's weird, like, how I was able to pan out the way I was based on that, because I was very behind, and I was very... Yeah. The trek was so short. I think my first book I ever read was probably sometime in my high school years, maybe even later than that. And it was literally The Count of Monte Cristo. And it's just, like, blew my mind. And I was like, books, awesome. And then, like, now I'm, like, reading, like, quantum physics and, like, weird poetry and stuff like that. Stuff that years ago I was like, nerd! So, that's kind of, that was kind of a tricky process. But being involved in the co-ops helped, because I was able to kind of observe where everybody else was going, and I was like, I need to do something about this. But honestly, I was so not down for that I never corrected that until college.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realized, like, I don't know, I have this weird, this very weird, I should have been in public school. I would have thrived there, as opposed to someone like my brother, who graduated our, like, high school. He was already at Rock Valley at, like, 15 or 16 years old or something like that. Like, he was fairly young.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't even think he was going there part-time. I think he was going full-blown. Because I think towards the end, whenever he was trying to figure out what school he wanted to go to, he was just messing around. He was like, oh yeah, I'm taking karate this semester. And like,
I remember that.
Yeah, and he, like, that, like, and I was like, really? He's like, yeah, there's like a PE requirement, I guess, I have to make, but it's like, I don't know what school I'm going to go to. And he was just messing around, and he was working 2 jobs and stuff like that. But, yeah, really interesting how him and I would have benefited, he wouldn't have. But at the same time, I got to college, and I'm like, this is going to wreck me. Like, I'm going to figure out down. It was so easy. Like, it was incredibly easy. Like, I don't even know what I learned in high school, and yet I got there, and I was like, not that, what I'm doing now is difficult, but, like, going through Rock Valley, I was like, man, you should have sent me there whenever I was in middle school. Like, it would have been weird seeing, like, the little kid there, but I was like, man, dude, I don't know. It was weird. But, I think we're going to take our first break. And we'll be back, and I think we're going to talk about more of that regulation stuff and how interesting. There's some interesting things that just previously happened a couple weeks ago regarding homeschooling, regulation, stuff like that. So, we'll be back. And we're back from our first break. Right now, we're going to jump into kind of same stuff, just kind of, chilling, talking about homeschool, regulations, Obama administration, Betsy DeVos. But, yeah. So, as far as... I kind of want to, like, get, like, a feel for the room. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to feel for the room. So... you openly said, like, before the break that you don't think homeschooling is a good idea. Okay?
No, she said she wouldn't homeschool her children.
She wouldn't.
I wouldn't homeschool my children.
Okay. Now, what is your feeling?
It's not in my plans to homeschool my children. I don't know how I feel on, like, public, private, and charter yet. Mm-hmm. It depends way too much on where you live. Like, before you make that decision.
It's a very difficult thing to make.
Like, I can go live somewhere in Minnesota, which has brilliant public schools, and I have, like, I don't have any moral or, like, ethical problems with sending my kids to public schools. Plus, it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I live in a place where the school district is crap, then I'm probably going to have to rethink my choices. So, just on the basis of, like, do you have moral or ethical problems with any of these school types, including homeschooling? No, I don't. I just don't think that, I don't know, homeschooling is not in the cards for me. Now I'm at least 5+ years removed from having any sort of kids, but I don't know. As of right now, it's going to be a no for me, dog.
Yeah, it's
Randy Jackson action. The Geico commercial. You got the walk, the talk.
Yeah.
I don't know, dog.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you. I'm kind of more like you're very much right about how hyper like geographically specific it is to that decision. Like, I totally agree with that. Like, you should probably just leave all the cards on the table for that.
Yeah.
Morally and ethically for me as well. I don't have any reservations. About the only thing I've thought about is seriously homeschooling from that, like, really young age that all of those studies have been done on about how, like, impressionable that is on your child's outcome. You know what I'm saying?
See, I don't consider that homeschooling, though, because I feel like the preschool, kindergarten first grade is like, I mean, they're learning colors and numbers.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, I wouldn't, like, I get it, because if anything, I guess I should rephrase, I feel like those years are very vital.
Yeah.
And, your kids are curious, they're learning about trust, and they're learning about, like, just everything.
Yeah.
That I do think those would be, like, I would like to stay home with my kids, but I guess I don't consider that necessarily, like, staying home and, like, homeschooling, because it's just very basic.
That's
like,
an 18-year
this is how you're a human.
Yeah.
Like, let me show you how to, like, wash your hands after going to the bathroom. Like, I guess, I don't consider that, like, the full-time commitment of being like, oh, no, I'm homeschooling my children. It's like, well, up until they're going to real school type of thing.
Like, I have that feeling on that beginning part, and I'd like them to at least know differential calculus before they go to public school. I think that would probably be
no
a good
pressure.
idea.
Sure.
Yeah, no pressure. No, but in their high school years, though, I'd like to also give my kids the option that I'm like, hey, just let you know, if you want to leave at any time and go pursue a degree at community college, not like as in like that one and you're done, but if you would rather have that than a high school diploma, go for it, because I still don't know what is being taught. Like, I mean, I do know, but I have no idea how I was able to make it in high school with the limited things that I knew, and I had no, I don't know, maybe just being around all those really smart people that are homeschooled and stuff like that has that sort of residual rub off, but it's like, I was just like, I don't know, I was perplexed. I was like, that's interesting, like, I don't know how I'm not struggling right now, but that's weird.
I guess some of the things that I wish that I would have gotten, like, I definitely kind of wish I would have gone to high school, like, not been homeschooled for my high school years, but mainly because of I wish that I had just more opportunities, as far as, like, especially with, like, sports. I feel like that,
huge thing.
Where we went was, like, you had the, like, little splash of, like, oh, look, you're on a basketball team or a volleyball team. To me, it was too, because I am extremely competitive, like, it was too much about fun, and I didn't like that. And I also feel like, there were certain opportunities that I probably could have had if I was able to network a little bit more with, like, actual, like, organized, organized sports and, like, the community and that type of thing. But I mean, I think that, like I was saying, kind of joking about before, like the misconception of like, oh, you don't have any friends, you don't do anything outside, you're constantly in your pajamas doing your schoolwork. It's like,
it's funny because it's true, but I'm like, yeah, who cares? Like, that's so dumb.
But we were involved in a lot of like, I don't think my mom homeschooled us because she wanted to shelter us per se from the big bad outside world. I think the reason why Erin was pulled out of school is because she had a ton of anxiety being at school. Like, she has always been very intelligent, and she would get done with her homework or schoolwork, like, very quickly in class, and then she'd distract everyone else and then get in trouble. And she developed this anxiety and would bite her nails, and my mom was just kind of seeing how that was, like, affecting her, so she just decided to not put me through that. And then, in turn, Lauren as well. We just kind of, So I don't think it was necessarily so much about... It was just what it brought out in Erin, and I think she just didn't want to put that on the rest of us, so that's why we did it. Because I don't feel like anything about us being homeschooled, because she didn't shy away from any questions we had. If anything, she brought up stuff that was maybe a little bit above our years at times to, like, bring up stories or whatever, which I appreciate now looking back about.
Yeah.
So we never had that sense of, like, oh, you can't do this, or you can't go here, or you can't, I don't want you to do this because I'm afraid of what, how it'll affect you. Like, we were involved in a lot of activities outside through, like, we never did, like, 4-H per se, but we did a lot of park district type of stuff, a lot of activities through the park district, a lot of classes you could take through, like, museums or whatever. So, like, we had interactions. It wasn't, like, this closed-off world of, no, you're homeschooled and you're literally, like, locked in for the next 18 years.
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting.
I don't know, but I do wish that I would have had the opportunity that I do feel like comes along more with being in either public school or private school.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have access to not that I was like, oh, because of this I never made it to the NBA. No. But obviously, actually, I should probably even scale that joke a bit back even further. That because of that I never played in college. No, but it's like I didn't have access to basketball in like a certain couple of years, in that carryover from when the basketball team started up at Hallstrom and the end of my Kinrock, which was the community center career. I had zero access to football, and those were like the two. That's my winter and summer, or winter and fall. That's what I was typically playing. So that kind of stunk, but probably kept me from a couple extra concussions, which is fine. But it was something that I genuinely did want to pursue, because I thought actually I did have like some sort of, I don't know, you want to explore things to the fullest, to where when you can say you're done with them, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't have the opportunity, and that kind of sucks. But I don't know. The basketball team was awesome. Like I like that it was. Well,
and yours was even more organized than like what we had. Like everything that we did was like literally the girls, like the captains of the team. Like we had very little support. I mean, it was volleyball. It wasn't basketball. Like I think basketball was definitely more popular. I guess at at Hallstrom.
Generating sport, made millions off that team.
Yeah, I mean, like there was like this like kind of. I don't know if it was a money. I wasn't sure. I remember the administration fees started going up, and
did you guys charge for admission to get into a game?
Yeah,
because we didn't do that.
I think. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like there was a lot of things. Like I feel like we were specifically told we weren't allowed to.
NCAA rules.
NCAA rules. They applied to Hallstrom. See, but maybe we were pulling shady stuff. I don't know. Like there's just we operated. I don't know. Where did you guys ever play home games? Mm-hmm. Where was your home?
ISC.
Whoa, that's kind of cool. That's a good facility, actually. Ours was Rock Church, and it was for a while, and it was fine. It turned out the away teams really liked the rims and backboards there, which was kind of disheartening because we didn't. But whatever.
I think there was some type of argument about like, we had to pay to rent the facility for our games, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it was ISC that didn't allow you. Which doesn't really make any sense. That didn't allow you to charge admission to a game, which
Rockford Park District owned it, I think.
Maybe that's why.
So you guys could just rent a court and like it didn't cost you guys anything, and
No,
you're like,
no,
this is
no.
a park service.
That
to
was.
you.
Did you guys have like I don't even know what they called it, but like that. I want to say administration fee, but that's not what it was. It was like a fee that you paid like once you got
when you signed up
onto
for the class, technically.
No, it wasn't even the class. You paid for the class, and there was another fee that we had because we had to pay for that stuff. It was like if and when we were able to get new uniforms, which was usually we had to do all kinds of like fundraising anyway.
Yeah.
Bikini car wash.
Yeah. Big
Yeah,
in
that
the
was-
homeschool community.
Yeah, that was
The
definitely
bikini car wash.
encouraged.
Denim
Yes,
jumper car wash.
definitely. Any type of like rental fees of like going to ISC, but it was like I want to say it was at least like an additional $150 or something like that,
Well,
which
it's-
at the time was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah.
you know, I'm not going to bash the fact that like it's impossible to like succeed in a sport if you're homeschooled, because obviously like club is a thing, and like we could have played club, but at the
Could've,
time
yeah.
did not have. That's like, very expensive. You know, Lauren was able to play club, which is awesome, but I mean.
Yeah.
There was no way that we could have afforded that at the time, so that was the next best thing. But so yeah, everything that we had as far as like even paying to get to tournaments, like that huge tournament we went to in Omaha, we had to fundraise to get the money to go there, and it was just from fundraising. Like we didn't, for whatever reason, never got any extra money from parents. There was no. Rarely did we get approved to do any type of like pizza day. I don't think we ever got a pizza day. We had to like do bake sales and all that stuff. But I feel like the basketball team had outlets that was a little more.
So
I don't know.
starting off right off the bat, the class was expensive. It was
Yeah.
right off the bat, like the first couple of years, like when like we had like 10 games a season. Those first couple of years that the program existed, it was like a $100 class.
Yeah.
Like it was, or even under that. Like it was not a big deal. And then we had a huge jump one year where we went from 10 games to 36 games to 68 or 72 games. Like it was like 3 years of just like boom, boom, boom. And it was like this whole new thing. And then that's when our administration fees went up and we were paying something like $350 a person. And so right off the bat, that was expensive. But in addition to that, we also did fundraisers. And of course, you're young. You don't pay attention to where the money goes. You're not looking. You're just like, we got to make this money. And we got to get this in here. And so that, and we charged for games at Rock Church, but also we paid to practice and play at Rock Church. So it was all this huge influx of money going in and out. And then I want to say the initial fundraisers that we started were when we were going to Oklahoma City to play the big tournaments and stuff like that.
But now you guys paid, how often did you guys have practices?
Every Tuesday and Thursday nights. So in the mornings at the
practices.
Temple Baptist Hallstrom Center and at Tuesday, Thursday nights. We should have practiced way more than that. But, you know, that's just what we did. So
Yeah, so we practiced Tuesdays and Thursdays, which I wish we would have practiced more too. And it was always which was another downfall because that was not regulation at all.
Yeah.
It was always at Temple Baptist.
Yeah.
I think we had a few that were at ISC, but that was like if we had like a tournament or something coming up, we'd try to rent out that
I hate
place,
the floors for ISC, but I guess volleyball players like it, I guess.
It was
If it's
it was better than
springy.
carpet. I mean, we weren't complaining, and it was regulation, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I regret not having access to that stuff, but specifically football because I only missed out on a small window of, and that was purely. It would have been super beneficial that I played in those early late grade school, early middle school years, but it's one of those things that just didn't pan out. So yeah, you know, but I don't know. Homeschooling is just kind of this weird. Wild west of like, I mean, especially in Illinois, because I come out here and I'm having problems. Like, I may have to take the before I graduate college. There's a slight chance that I might have to take the GED.
Yeah,
because
it's just so weird.
I was like, yeah, but I have like all these credits and all this stuff from community college. They're like, if you don't have a clerk, I was like, a clerk sign off on my graduation of this made-up thing, like, it's like, whoa. So there's a slight chance. So far, I don't think it's going to happen, but I was just saying, I'm ready for it. It will be fun, though. I would love to be like, I have my GED. It's like,
I know.
I'm also an engineer. Like, it's like, it's like,
it's
a weird thing. So I don't know.
Interesting.
So it's all up in the air with that stuff. But yeah, I got, especially in Massachusetts, Alabama's kind of the same way. I went down there and it was all like, they were like, psh, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that was their whole thing. But I got out here and they were like, oh no, you just can't like not go through high school. It's like, whoa, what? That's weird. I'm like 30. You want to put me in high school? I mean, that would be weird.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, these high schools around here are like some of the best in the country, so I'm sure that would be a nice little primer. I'd be like, no, this is legitimately difficult. Like,
these kids are smart.
You ever take the Constitution test?
Yes, and I.
We did that.
I never took that.
Oh, really?
No, I don't know if I'm going to get like my master's rescinded or something, but
that'd be
I
hilarious.
never took the Constitution.
I did,
We
but
took it.
you have to pass it, and I got a 30 or 40% on it. So
I took it at Hallstrom. It was I can't remember who taught that class.
So
Was it-
freaking patriotic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it was like all like she was gonna send it, make it like it was like officially official and like send her results and like make sure that it was like documented that we took it or whatever.
Mm.
But
yeah, I got all the answers I got
that.
right on the test, which I think it was like a 100-question test. I made it pretty hard. But
I think that's a standard
was
test
it standard?
too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
okay,
so.
well, it was long, whatever it was. And I guessed on all the ones that had to do with majority, I was just like 2/3 majority, 2/3. So I got all those right and everything else wrong. So, yeah. So
I really wonder like what the test looks like to take to be an American citizen.
Those are hard.
Because I feel like I don't know if I could probably pass it.
I've heard
I'm sure I
I've heard it's
couldn't.
pretty difficult. I got grilled pretty hard in college because I was just like, one day I was messing around and talking about running, like people running for president or something like that, and I was like, yeah, I mean like just any random 32-year-old or something like that. And someone looked at me and they were like, you have to be 35, and I was like, whoa. I was like, yeah, I mean I wouldn't know. I mean it's whatever.
That's
so
hilarious.
yeah, I got spanked on that one. So yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny though is like those what's it called whenever you you reduce the stereotypes of homeschooling. Like the first what's the first one you ever heard? Like what was it when someone's like, "Oh, you're homeschooled?" Like what was the first thing?
They usually say something along like when they find out that I'm homeschooled.
Just like the one thing you remember that people would bring up right off the bat.
You don't have. Do you have any friends?
Do you have any friends? Okay, what about you?
Yeah, usually my experience would be when I tell people I'm homeschooled, they'd be like, "Oh, I would never tell. Like, you're not socially awkward."
Yeah,
which
that's another.
in some
thing
ways
I've
it's
heard a
true,
lot.
in some ways it isn't true. But I think I'm good at like masking my social awkwardness.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always a big thing. Is like, oh, you seem normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those are all I've experienced those too. But the one big one that I've always gotten, and it's so random. They're like, "Oh, you must be really good at spelling," and I'm like,
What?
No, because I guess like so ESPN has the spelling bee on every year, and like I guess like a homeschooler has always won it. So, which is funny because it's like people are like, "Oh yeah, that's homeschooling." But it's probably just a way of juicing, where what they pull them out of school. They're like, "Oh no, like we're gonna tail back on the math and history and all this stuff, but you're gonna learn how to spell, dude." And so, don't know why that's like. I mean, sorry about spell check being invented. I mean, it's not very beneficial to life.
What a weird skill that you're. Really
it's weird, but yeah, this one I always got all the time, and I was like, no. The second one was always like, oh. So you get to go and just walk down from when you're sleeping in your pajamas and do your homework, and I was like, oh, that's such a weird joke, but
it's like I don't understand why that's a perk. I'm confused at like why is wearing regular clothes such a hassle to everybody else? Like why?
And
I don't know.
I was always like, have you seen? Because we lived near East High School. I was like, have you seen what they wear
That
there? I mean,
too,
like
I
it's
know.
pretty much the same
It's
thing.
like that's what kids wear. They wear Uggs and sweats.
Uggs
That's
sweats.
basically pajamas.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just found that to be pretty silly, but
It's interesting to hear people's idea of what homeschooling is. But I think everybody automatically goes to the end of like, oh, you're not wearing jumpers. How many siblings do you have? Like, are you socially awkward?
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these things, which they exist obviously, but it's weird that that's like the only I don't feel like that's the majority, though, either. Like, would you think that's the majority? Is that, like, I just wonder why that's, like, when pretty much every single person that I've talked to, obviously, because that's where all those things come from. Oh, you're so normal. I feel like that's what everybody thinks of, is, like,
the
this
normal,
extreme,
like, social awkwardness?
Well, just the extreme homeschooling, because that's, like,
Dude, there is
for, like, religious purposes
Yeah.
or, you know, really trying to shelter your kids from, you know...
I don't know. I don't want to be as bold as to say that it's the majority, but there is a lot. Like, there's a lot. Like, even... People
But do
would
you think
even...
that's the main reason why people homeschool? Like, why did your parents want to homeschool you guys?
I don't know exactly. Probably some of this aspect of like shielding us from so-called outside. But I don't know. I think my parents are pretty knowledgeable about like Rockford public schools and knowing that they didn't have the money to send us all the private school, so it kind of like was the default option, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, both my parents went to public school and public college and that sort of thing, and so surely there was something from those experiences that told them we don't want our kids to go through this. I don't know exactly what it was, but...
Do you feel like you were hindered at all, or like your parents, were they really picky with like who you hung out with, or like what activities you went to, or like do you feel like you were sheltered in that way as far as like when you would want to go out and do things, or...
Yeah, I don't feel like they were picky with who we hung out with, but I mean, the only people that we would hang out with were people on our social network, right? Church and school, who are like all pretty properly vetted already. It wasn't until I got to like going to Rock Valley or working at Kmart where like I even interacted with people outside of that small circle. So, I don't know. I didn't feel like that sheltered, I guess, in a way, but that was just my perspective being on the inside, because that's the only place I know. So
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me, a big question is, did you like being homeschooled? And I mean, obviously I have yeses and nos to that, but while I was doing it was the only thing I knew. And for me, I mean, I was typically like, at least until I was in like 7th or 8th grade, I would finish school at like noon every day.
Yeah.
And then have the rest of the day to chill out and do whatever I wanted. So for me, like, yeah, that's great, because I still got the same preparation from an academic standpoint as everybody else. And like, I have 3 siblings to hang out with. Like, it's not like there's nothing to do at my house. So, I don't know. I didn't feel that sheltered. I mean, once I got to like college, actually, when I went to Chicago to go to school, you definitely figure out pretty quickly like the things that you're not quite up to speed on. And so there was definitely a somewhat of a rough transition period into that. And I think for the most part now, 6 years later, I'm pretty well adjusted to what's considered normalcy. But there was definitely a transition period. So
The one blaring thing about just like our situation is District 205, the public schools there. I mean, that's like, that makes the choice a little bit easier for everybody else. I mean, for people who don't know, it's a pretty bad overall public schooling district in Northern Illinois, and honestly, outside of the gifted program in Auburn, which I don't know existed in our, like, if it existed probably around the time that we were in middle and high school, early high school. Maybe I'm probably wrong. Somebody can correct me. I don't have the time to look it up. But outside of that program, there was really nothing else.
Yeah.
I would have benefited from that nothing else, but it was not, there's not a whole lot of content there, you know? It's just like, it's not the best place to go to school. And the surrounding rural districts weren't super great either.
Yeah.
And then the Chicago districts, that's a whole other thing, you know? It's just like, you know.
Well, you know, I feel like another thing too, especially that I tell people when they kind of like pick my brain about my experience homeschooling, is that I do feel like that it is so specific to, it depends on what type of kids you have. Like you, for example, you probably would have benefited a lot more by going to school, having
100%.
the structure of like having somebody kind of over you, like, hey, what are you doing? You know, keep you in line a little. I mean, obviously I know your mom was probably gone more than she obviously wished to be.
Yeah.
But still, you know, you weren't as like disciplined as I think you obviously kind of need to be homeschooled.
Oh, 100%.
Lauren, I think too. I think she probably did better in public school than she wasn't. I don't know if she would have been as self-disciplined to do. I mean, some of the stuff that I tried to do with her before she started going to public school was a challenge.
Oh yeah.
So I think it really depends on the personality of your kid too. I don't think every I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, if that's all that you know, I think you kind of just go along with it. But I do think personality kind of comes into play as far as, like, I mean, we went to school with kids at Hallstrom, for example, who, like, homeschooling was their only option because they had gotten kicked out of all, like, a bunch of other schools.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, that's not the majority, but that's also a possibility. There are kids that it's like, okay, well, you can only be homeschooled now because you're just a delinquent.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's that factor, too.
Mm-hmm.
But... yeah, I don't know. I think that's interesting, too.
Yeah, I'm remembering that now,
Mm-hmm.
that there was a small sector of kids. I mean, and it wasn't just like, oh, like they were very, very bad in kindergarten. It's like, no, there was some people we ran into where I was like, no, this person got kicked out of like all the high schools, and they're genuinely troubled.
Hallstrom was hardcore, man. East side of Rockford, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, man.
I mean, I feel like it was such a weird... You really had the whole entire spectrum of people at Hallstrom, which was so weird, because you would have, like, super extreme, 12 children.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for, like, race. Yeah. Not so much in that regard.
Yeah.
Maybe, diversity in, like, background, but not, race. But yeah, you had, like, the extreme of, like, 12 kids, really socially awkward, and then, like, kids like that, for example, like, mingling in the fellowship hall, sort of. But, you know, it's just weird. Like, that was kind of a weird aspect of the whole experience, too.
Yeah, I don't know. There were some people that were very troubled that. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I like the whole... I do, as much as I don't know that I would go that route with my own children, I won't say that I did not enjoy the experience, though. Like, it didn't help me, but also it was fun. Like, there was some fun stuff to do. I mean, like, I don't know. Like what? We got pizza at the co-op sometimes, and at the end of the day, it would smell like sweaty pizza. A lot of openly breastfeeding mothers. So if you're into that sort of thing, like that's kind of nice.
If you're a 14-year-old boy,
I grew up very old in that sense.
Yeah,
I grew up very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah, that was like a thing. It was like.
It's like the watering hole in the fellowship hall at lunchtime.
Yeah, I think I remember someone putting it, like, they stopped calling it the fellowship hall, and they started calling it the lactation station. And I was like...
You know, we had State Street Station just down the road, but you don't need it when you got Hallstrom.
Seriously.
Mature audiences.
Yeah.
You know, some of the moms were nice about the blanket. Others were just like, nope, this is
not
what
if you're
this
at
is.
number 13.
Kid number 8.
Just dropping right out of you.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny, though, to be around that, like, because of how many kids homeschool families have, because there are a lot of Catholics and a lot of people who... There's even people, like, evangelicals who don't believe in contraception and stuff like that. You know, just their whole degradation of just, like, over the years, like, this is kid 1. This is what kid 10 looks like. And it's like...
Yeah.
They're just like, nope, this is over.
Yeah.
You know, so... I don't know. I didn't get the whole mega van experience growing up. We had a... early on when we were kids, we had a Chevy Starcraft, I want to say. Those things were. And then we moved on 60 other terrible vans. And then finally, like, the cliche green Dodge Caravan.
Nice.
Everyone
Classic.
had that. I mean, like...
We didn't. We only had Toyota Prius.
We
had a white one and then a maroon one.
Toyota Privias are hot. Like, those are nice
sexy.
cars. Yeah, those are good ones,
they're
man.
So weird.
Ugh, they're great.
Yeah. They're like the derpy cousin of like what a minivan actually is.
Yeah.
You know what's kind of an interesting, this is kind of random, but you know what was kind of an interesting aspect of the whole fellowship hall, an experience of like your parents being at, or at least one parent having to be with you like throughout the day at school, is like this whole concept of what almost turned into, not by choice or by like discussion, like this herd parenting that started happening. I don't know if you guys ever got like yelled at by other parents for things that was just like, you have no, I don't know why you're coming over to me. Like, I'm not your problem.
Yeah.
You should, and especially, you know, near the end when we kind of just were there by ourselves anyway.
Yeah.
I remember having a teacher, like, remember, like, there was, like, those days, like, oh, it's a t-shirt day, or it was, like,
hoodie
you know,
day.
funny. Yeah, hoodie day, because hoodies were against the dress code.
Yep.
I had some
Not
random,
initially. It's until we found the loophole where it's like, oh, no, I have a polo on. It's just, like, underneath.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I had this random woman, and I don't even know who she was. I was wearing a t-shirt because I thought it was t-shirt day. A totally modest, baggy, like, volleyball t-shirt. And she's like, what did you think it was? Orange t-shirt day? And I was like...
Ooh, girl.
What's your name?
Gonna
I'm sorry.
expelled.
Who are you? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But it was just such a weird concept. Like, I feel like some of these moms just got off on the fact that they were just, like, reprimanding children that they didn't even know who they were.
Well, you know, and that's the weird dynamic that starts to appear in utopias. Like, I will use this as like they think this is a utopia, is you had people that were like, ooh, I like the feeling of being powerful having power over these people. And that is kind of a scary thing.
It's a turn on.
It's a turn on.
A lot of turn ons in homeschooling. Yeah.
That's a fetish right there. No, but
That's why I have ED.
Yeah. You just don't go to the fellowship hall anymore. It's such a stimulating experience.
Need some therapy.
Oh, God.
But it is weird, though, how, like, it's like the prime example of why philosophers are like, utopias don't work. It's because eventually they destroy themselves. That's why it can't exist.
Yeah.
And so there was these people, and it was the board, you know, which, talk to me about this. I will bring it up here in a second. So the board was all women, but technically, wasn't there a loophole where technically the husbands were over them, even in like a broader sense, because of the whole Christian thing? Or was it genuinely just straight up women?
The only dad that I ever actually saw, like, kind of become part of the board, like, but unofficially, was Mr. I think.
Oh, see, but I thought that he was like.
But I don't think he did. I don't think he had an official title.
I thought he was one of the fail-safe guys, because I remember he would only come in and talk to us, as in the chapel, if there was ever like, hey, I've noticed a disturbing trend among people, and it's like it's only for the bad stuff. It's like filthy jokes. Vodka in a water bottle.
He was like a secret agent.
Stuff.
Orange t-shirts.
Oh,
orange t-shirts.
Yeah, he was a secret agent, you would say?
I feel, because he was like, you know, just hidden in the shadows, kind of like doing the deeds of the board.
Makes problems disappear.
Yeah, he's the fixer. He's the fixer.
Yeah, like that's kind of how I felt like, I don't know.
I don't know. I guess I interpreted it differently, because I always thought I was like, oh, this is their fail-safe for the whole thing in the Bible where it says women submit to the husbands. It's like you always have to have a man in charge, because...
I just don't remember seeing very many dads at Hallstrom ever.
No.
So I kind of feel like it was just a matter of... Because I think it seemed... Well, I think maybe homeschooling communities, for the most part, was standardly... You were at home with your mom.
Yes.
Because your dad was the one who went home.
Yes.
Or, I mean, went to work and, you know, made money or whatever.
Yeah.
So you were typically home with your mom. So I feel like that was just kind of like, no, the board was just because all the moms are here. Like, this is the board of moms.
Yes, the board of moms.
This is the...
I think I saw a movie one time.
Yeah.
Available online.
So
link in the description. Oh, yikes.
So...
Speaking of the fellowship hall.
Yeah. So you just reminded me, though.
Oh my God.
So, the rule. Parent had to be there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we didn't get that memo. Because
It
obviously
said it in the book of moms or whatever it was called.
the book of moms.
Yeah.
So we didn't get that
Hallstrom
memo.
handbook.
Yeah, the Hallstrom handbook.
And so we slipped through the cracks for the longest time because obviously, my dad wasn't there and my mom was working. So
Yeah.
how is that even possible? And so
Well,
basically they approached us and they
Okay.
were like, hey, listen, we know what you guys are pulling. We've noticed you've never had. And it's like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, so we have to have somebody. I was like, well, I have 2 moms here that are always here, and we're like super close friends. Like, I'm pretty much their kid, so it's not. And they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. You have to have someone. And of course, like most things, I don't know if it was like a safety concern or they were just like, we're honestly just sick of these kids being around. Because I could have gotten that too. I wish they would have just told me straight up. So this countersects with a lot of things, but I'm going to bring minorities into the mix. So we were like, oh, we have this family friend that we're very close with. He's African American. Let's bring him in here to watch us. He's totally cool. He's been retired for years, and he's
yeah.
going to sit there and do that. The first day we bring him in, he's sitting there, and he I guess a lot of the moms freaked out on him, and they called the police because they thought he was homeless.
what?
They thought he was a homeless person. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I've never heard that story.
We brought the one black guy to Australia.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
I was like just cringing, and I was like, "Listen, dude, you don't have to do this ever again. Just leave, and we'll." And basically, what it ended up being is like I don't know. I don't even know if we even made a deal with them. I don't even know, but basically, it turned out to be like kids are only allowed to be here during their classes, and then they have to leave. Like they're not allowed to be here, and so I think that's what it turned into.
Well, because we were in a similar situation after a point in time, but I feel like even then we had to submit either like a written documentation or something because we had a friend of ours who kind of was like, I'll be your pseudo parent while you're here and be like the one that's keeping watch over you or whatever. But I still think it had to be like something that was documented. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
So there was so much hypocrisy that went on, like with the rules that really didn't apply to any of the kids. Well, I guess at a certain time. There was definitely phases of like the way that the board shifted depending on who was on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there was definitely a lot of like discrimination with like the rules applying to like board members' children and not applying to like other families.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You must have gotten that sweet.
That's sweet. Which is,
Board
I mean,
that's
that's good though. I mean, that's dope.
I went to the Hallstrom banquet when I was in 7th grade. And
Oh,
it was for 8th and up.
Oh my gosh.
Controversy, baby. Controversy.
I'm going to get
terrible.
my master's revoked now. It goes deep.
Goes deep.
Speaking of bored of moms, I don't know if we can use this content.
I say we just stick with it. I say we just stick with it and roll it.
It's cool.
But the funny thing about him being called out for being homeless and stuff like that is, like, I guess the thing
That's so terrible.
that was given was that pretty much he wasn't wearing a polo and khakis. Like, they were like, not saying he needed to be in dress code, but he showed up and I was like, no, you need to understand his shoes and his sweatpants and his Carolina Panthers star track jacket probably cost more than, a lot of the things you're bringing in here. So that's what he thinks is like very good stuff to wear.
Oh
and it's
my
like, I'm
gosh.
just like, they thought he was homeless, which was another thing. And I was like, do homeless people wear MJs? I think they were Jordan 4s too. I think they were pretty, they were not bad. He was either wearing those or
It's just
or
racism.
It's racism.
It is.
Overt racism.
You're like, we think he's homeless. It's like, no, you just see that he's black.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I honestly could not get over how cringed out I was, though, because I wasn't mad at anybody who called, and I wasn't. I should have been at the time, but I didn't understand. Like, if someone were like, how many black kids like went to Hallstrom, I probably would have said like at least 30 or 40, which is such a stupid.
Was there even that many?
No.
Oh,
I'm saying
okay.
like that's how out of I had no idea. And so the real answer is probably 3 to 4, probably.
Around 10. I can think of like
probably
7.
Yeah. I mean, it was not a lot. But yeah, it's interesting. So looking back on that,
even
I'm
not
like,
just like necessarily like African Americans. I don't.
Yeah,
How
anything
much-
non-Caucasian.
Yeah, really, any type of.
I feel like there's more Hispanics than there were just because of the homeschool community's connection to Belvedere, which was a large Hispanic community. So,
I can think of like 2 families.
well, you know, a lot of them in the States. I don't really know. I don't know. It just
It was predominantly white.
Spark Notes, all white. Just
Just a lot of white.
a lot of white.
Yeah.
Which is nothing wrong with that, but it just my naivety of how much I would have thought back then, how many African Americans went to that. You know, I would have definitely been very. I would have seen it more in public school. You know, so I wouldn't have been so naive. You know, it's like, oh no, it's like there's tons of white people, tons of black people, and tons of non-Caucasian people in general. You know,
Yeah.
and just didn't get that from there.
Do you think they'll let us be the commencement speakers at Halston graduation next year?
I would love that, actually.
When we're super
off the
famous
stage.
and we like all blow up with our comedy writing careers and stuff like that, it's just gonna be like, they're like, hey, come back. And it's like, oh,
It'd be like Michelle Wolf. You should have done your research.
you should have done your research, baby.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we're gonna take our next break. Running over our little increment, so we'll be back. Sit tight. Don't die.
Don't die.
Yeah, man, I can't believe I just remembered that little gym, baby. Oh my god. I was like, oh my god.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry. And we're back.
Did you do that thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all rolling. We're going. Jumping back into the whole homeschool thing, which I'm going to bring up the whole regulations thing, which I think is really interesting because it kind of cross sections with, you know, what we're talking about. But I think it's all over now. It's all over. But the bill out in California was called AB 2756. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so basically, which, you know, the thing is I couldn't find a good primer on this bill, like why it was so opposed. But basically, if I'm remembering the article I read properly, it was, do you remember that whole situation a couple months ago where they found that family of like, I think they want to say there was 12 kids,
Yeah.
and like a couple of them, a lot of them were malnutritioned
Yeah.
and chained up, and they were homeschooled, right?
Yeah.
So that, and then there was some accident, I want to say it was a car accident, and the mom, she adopted all of her kids. That's a pretty common story in homeschooling. Like there is, I don't know if you guys know that one family. There was like that one family that had like 20 kids. They all had the same Italian last name.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was like a big one. I want to say they had like anywhere between 12 and 16 kids probably.
16 seems like a lot.
16 is a lot?
Yeah.
Maybe 12 is the high end then? It was
Maybe.
a lot. I was like, wow. Like, I thought 5 kids was a lot. But basically, she had adopted all of her kids, or the family had adopted all of her kids, and I guess there was like I want to say there was a car accident killing 4 of them or something like that, and then a bunch of stuff came out about her, about how, like, she would force them to pose for all these happy Facebook pictures or something like that, but I guess she was a straight-up monster to these children. Also a homeschooling situation. So this bill, AB 2756, was enacted in California because they wanted to negate the abuse of this homeschooling situation. I find it odd that it's created for 2 specific situations, but it was very much... This is the only thing I can find in the bill that it does, which is really weird because there's like a whole NPR article about it, but they go into like more of like the abuse that was going on versus like what the bill does. But I guess it would let, I don't know what organization, maybe create a whole new organization, do random home inspections at how the process is going along with school and stuff. So I have a lot of family. I have a lot of friends that live out there, and a lot of them are homeschooling their kids out in California. And very much against this bill. And I find that very interesting because I was really trying to dig in, and I was like, is it really just the invasion of privacy of these things, or is it going to the extent of they think that this is going to be an open gate to eventually they'll dictate curriculum and stuff like that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on, but it just didn't. It seemed like a lot of fuss for nothing, which I just think that you were saying, like, it's weird how unregulated a lot of this is.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I think that's weird how unregulated a lot of this is because I get in a situation out here where they're like, no, you don't just magically say that, you know, you don't magically say that you're going to that you graduated from high school. We need proof, which is interesting because I was like, if I forged a diploma, handed it over to you, and she would have been like, yeah, that's, and I'm like, that is so weird.
Right.
But in my thing, I would have to have someone sign off and stuff like that. But I don't know. I find it interesting that I guess if anyone wants to be, I guess people generally in America hate regulation. I guess, right? I guess.
Except for Obama.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some type of, like, there's gotta be some fear in just feeling a little bit inadequate if you're doing something that you didn't necessarily go to school to do, but you're trying to do your best and having someone come into your home and tell you how to do it better.
Yeah.
Like, I think, if anything, I feel like that maybe. And probably the invasion of privacy, too. Like, feeling like, you know.
And there's also the element of, like, you know, people could really view it as, you know, you're impeding on my ability to raise my children. Like, that's what, like, this is, which is like, that's such a slippery slope, because there were some people that I was like, your mom, for example, I'd be like, oh yeah, apt to teach, totally, I have no problem with that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I knew other people that were like, what did you do before this? And they were like, I have never worked before. I've been a stay-at-home mom forever. Like, it's like I am learning at the same pace as my kids, and I'm just like, uh-oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty scary concept. So, in my situation, I didn't really have anybody. Like, I think I was instructed to go to my older brother, and have him help me. But he was pretty enthralled in his studies, believe it or not. He was one of those that did the 4 pages instead of the 2, which was just
overachiever.
And then he'd go over on the computer and bust out Jumpstart 6th grade and start playing that, and it's like that's
what a baller.
Yeah, I know, unbelievable. But I don't know. I mean, it's concerning because there was some people that took the homeschooling very seriously and they did it very well. There's other families that I was like, oh man, you're in for it. Like, this is gonna suck for you whenever you get out of this, because there's no favors being done. So,
well, I guess it depends on too, like, what exactly. I would be interested to see, like, what was what's the checklist of things that they're looking for when they were to come on a home visit? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
Are you just looking to see that there's a parent present, or I mean, what type of? Because I mean, obviously, as far as curriculum goes, like, or what you're specifically teaching your kids, like, I don't know if that would be. I don't know if you'd really get into the depths of that by just, like, doing a home visit, or unless I don't know, like that. I just wonder what would all be involved while they're there.
There's like a 4-minute radio excerpt, so let's see if it says anything about, like, any more specifics, because it's like, it's weird. Yeah.
Support for NPR and the following message come from the American Petroleum Institute.
Big oil. Big oil supports NPR. That's surprising.
Text energy to 73075 to learn more.
Yeah.
Homeschooling will be getting a closer look in California as lawmakers there go back into session this week. Questions about regulations around homeschooling came up earlier in the year after a California couple was charged with abusing their 13 children. Benjamin Perper of member station KVCR has been talking to people on both sides of the debate.
The Grosses are a homeschool family in Redlands, California, about an hour east of Los Angeles. The 4 kids, ages 6 to 12, do all of their schooling right here with their mom, Holly.
Well, this is the kitchen. This is where actually a lot of our homeschooling takes place.
The children are taught according to a set curriculum.
Sounds right.
They like
Yeah.
to play and socialize.
This is my room.
This is your room. Okay. Very nice. They do sports in the community, too. Just an hour from here, a homeschooled girl escaped her house in January and called 911. Police discovered that she and her dozen siblings had been living in squalid conditions, where they were shackled to beds, tortured, and malnourished. That kind of shocking discovery is rare, but it was enough to make California lawmakers consider regulating homeschools. All California parents have to do now to homeschool is submit an affidavit with their address. Right now, 2 bills in the California Assembly could reform homeschooling. The first one would collect more data on homeschool families. The second would create an advisory committee to suggest reforms like inspections and credentialing. But some, like Brian Ray, think that's all wrong.
The idea of trying to come up with more laws to stop more people from doing bad things before we even know they're going to do anything bad is not the concept of the nation that we have under the U.S. Constitution and freedom.
Ray has testified in favor of homeschooling rights in courtrooms and in front of legislators. He also believes
There's no mathematical relationship between how much the government controls homeschooling and the amount of abuse.
he came to that conclusion by examining a database of nearly 400 homeschools that were in the news and courts because children in them were abused. He found no statistical significance between a state's regulation on homeschooling and its rate of homeschool-related child abuse. Theoretically, that means homeschool children in low-regulation states like Arizona should be about as vulnerable to abuse as children in high-regulation states like Pennsylvania. Ray got the data from the Coalition for Responsible Home Education. The Coalition's website lists hundreds of cases of abuse in homeschools from media reports and court cases going back to the 80s. But the Coalition says the database is incomplete and warns against using it to argue that regulation doesn't protect homeschool children.
We would just like to see protections put in place to keep people from falling through the cracks and getting abused.
Hannah Edinger is a volunteer and spokesperson for the Coalition, which is made up of former homeschooled children. I talked to her via Skype. Based on their research and some of their volunteers' experiences, the Coalition believes homeschooling can keep cases of child abuse unseen by people who have a legal and ethical obligation to report it, like doctors and professional teachers. So they have 2 policy recommendations. Require parents to send their kids to a doctor's checkup and a standardized test each year.
Both of these encounters would provide children with 2 interactions with mandatory reporters annually. And so if something is wrong, one of those 2 encounters should catch it.
The Grosses say they already have their kids tested and seen by a doctor every year. So I asked Holly, what if you had to?
I don't think we should be required to do that. I don't. We have the freedom to educate our children the way we think is best.
The 2 assembly bills are scheduled to be heard in committee by the end of April. Holly Grossa plans to go to Sacramento to testify. For NPR News, I'm Benjamin Perper.
So, I love her response. It's such a homeschool mom.
I
So
know.
I was I don't think we should be allowed to do that.
I
it's
just don't.
It's
yeah. It's why?
I mean, first of all, the bill that he was talking about gathering data on home, this is so dumb. But it's gathering data on homeschool families and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I think I'm all for gathering all sorts of data. I think that it's I don't know why.
Yeah.
We have the same issue with gun violence and stuff like that. There's actual laws that prevent the data collection of those specific crimes and stuff like that. And I just find that to be so anti-science. It's so gather all sorts of data as long as you're not, infringing on their privacy and stuff like that. You got to know what, what's going on. But I think the doctor visit and the test is fine. I don't know that as much as I want to scream out that it should be required to do that, it's just, again, with, the whole vaccine thing, it's, just because I say that doesn't mean that it's, as Americans, unfortunately, there's a certain degree of freedom that's, if you want to mess up your kids or, they get polio and die, you should have the freedom to be able to do that. I mean, that doesn't rid you from the ability to serve time in jail after being convicted for endangering that child or undereducating that child, but to call that stuff out and be you have to. I mean, everybody should go to the doctor at least once a year. I mean, I'm the only idiot that doesn't do that. You know what I'm saying? It's
You're not the only one.
Yeah, but it's just I don't know. It's just, it's weird. Yeah, but that bill completely killed the one about the inspections and stuff like that, which I think might be a little invasive. I mean, what are they looking for? What are they going to tell you to improve on? if anything, they should just voluntarily create documentation from the state of California and say, like, hey, these are things, here's some pointers of, like, some really cool stuff you could do with your kids. That's, like, there are these standardized tests. Remember, at certain age, to begin ACT and SAT prep and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just, like, give them pamphlets of, like, here's, like, I don't know, just go out on a limb first, you know what I'm saying, as opposed to going full-blown, like, inspection time, baby.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I think I think that's probably a little bit too much. I think, especially since the point of what they were getting at is, like...
abuse.
Abuse. How to avoid the whole abuse thing, which... And I'm sure, you know, your kids are still going to probably slip through the cracks if you're just going, you know, to inspect a home or whatever.
Of course.
But, you know, I think that would provide some opportunity, I guess, to catch those things, like they said, if you had, like, a doctor's visit or, you know, the standardized testing, I mean, would just prove that you're actually doing something. But, I mean, things are still going to fall through the cracks. I think it's unfortunate that there's such a drastic, like, homeschooling. Like, I just feel like that was associated maybe a little bit too heavily. Like, homeschooling is the main problem, and this is why these kids are allowed to be abused, which, I mean, it's the cloak that's allowed it to happen because they're homeschooled. But I think to just all of a sudden, I don't know. I think it obviously puts a bad name to something that really isn't. I mean, there's other issues. I mean, kids are abused by going, you know, who go to public school all the time, and you can't see it or don't know or whatever, and you're surrounded by teachers constantly. I mean, there's, you know, if you're abusing a kid, you find a way to hide it and, you know, whatever. But, I mean, I get it. I feel like, if anything, like you said, it would make more sense to start farther back than, like, invading someone's space and going into their home and, like, inspecting their home. I think that's probably a little too much.
I mean, like, I think a prime example of, like, how things could still slip through the cracks is I played tackle football from, like, ages, I want to say 9 was my first year, all the way up until probably only 12, like 9 to 12. And, like, I got bruised up really bad. Like, my arms were just covered in bruises. And I remember going to the doctor a couple times, and the doctors would ask to speak with me privately. Because they're voluntary report. And they would legit ask me if my mom was abusing me. Because I was covered in bruises and stuff. And it was weird how blunt, like, a lot of them were and stuff like that. But in that situation, it could easily slip through the cracks, because I would say, no, it's just, like, from football. But I could easily be a kid that there are people that are afraid to report their abuse. And even those situations could go through. I'm not saying, like, that already throws it out, don't do it. But I'm just saying, like, it's just not as easy as... It's not as cut and dry as that, you know?
I mean, as a mandated reporter, though, you don't have to... You can report something if it's suspected.
Exactly.
You don't have to have the verbal confirmation of somebody saying, yes, I am physically or emotionally or whatever. Like, if you can report it even if it's suspected. So, in that regard, you'd still catch some of the things that you wouldn't if someone is obviously locked in their house for 18 years being homeschooled or whatever. But
I'm sure a lot of it had to do with, like, how you've heard about that specific situation with that family. Yeah, it probably just has to do with, like, the heinousness of that. That's the reason why it incited such a response from the government.
Exactly.
So
exactly,
it was pretty messed up.
There's a lot of nostalgia hearing about that story from you. So.
Remember being chained to a bed. Learn these spelling words.
Yeah, exactly.
You won't be released until you can spell them all.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, overall, would you say that you enjoyed homeschooling, or do you think it was, like, a negative experience?
I feel like looking back, remember... I mean, I don't know if this is specifically from homeschooling, though. Like, I think of it along the lines of how much time I spent with my mom, and I feel like how much I feel like she instilled in us through like I said, it was a good mix of what I felt like was from street smarts and personal experience, and, like, that relationship we had with her, and obviously also standard education, you know, which I don't think a lot of people get, because I think so many people nowadays do expect teachers to have extra time to teach their kids all these things about, like, respect and integrity, and, you know, no, they have, like, 1 million kids and, like, 25, 30 kids in their classroom where they're just trying to keep them from not killing each other or eating too much glue. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think to expect that much from a teacher when they're you know, they don't have money for supplies 98% of the time. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's asking a lot. So I think some parents, when they do go to a public or private institution or whatever, expect everything to be taken care of. Like, you're raising my child, basically. You know, which, I mean, your kid is there most of the day, but I don't know. I like the balance, I feel like, that we got from what you should be getting, all the values you should be getting instilled from your parents and in the home, as well as the primary education portion. Which, to me, I kind of think should be secondary anyway.
Yeah.
From a lot of the people. I mean, you could be, you know, have so many degrees and have such a high education, but be, like, just a failure as a human or a person. Or, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, to me, that's where my importance lies. That's totally personal, obviously. But I think I appreciated what I feel like was more of the balance from spending that much time at home with a parent to be properly raised, I think was important. Yeah. So I think more of it's positive. I think the negative, I think, just comes mainly for me in high school, where I feel like it was just missed opportunities I feel like I had of not being able to, you know. But it wasn't like I hated it, but I just kind of maybe wish that it was different.
What about you specifically?
Yeah, well, this thing you were talking about with missed opportunities, as an admissions counselor, I read, 2,000 Common Apps each year, and you see the list of extracurricular activities, and we were actually, the situation we were in with Hallstrom, we were more privileged with opportunities than a lot of kids who are just straight up homeschooled, and that's what they do at their home, right? We have some sports. We have, like, my mom started a Model UN club, like, I don't know, I'm sure there are a couple other clubs happening at Hallstrom that I just didn't know about, but then you read the list of extracurricular activities that these kids in public and private school are getting, and like, you didn't have robotics in Hallstrom. You didn't have Spanish club, I don't think. Maybe there was, I'm not sure, but there's just a completely, I don't know, you don't get that preparation in high school, and then it turns into kind of a crash course when you get to college. And I think that even affected me in college. Like, when I got to college, my only thought was, okay, I'm going to work jobs now to pay for money. I never even really considered joining clubs. Like, I went to a school of 20,000 undergrads. There were a billion different clubs happening. And I never really thought to participate in them because I wasn't used to that thing. Like, that was just never part of my life. So in addition to all the, social stuff that I kind of had to catch up on, there's some of that, academically related stuff as well. So it's one thing to be able to, get a great score in the ACT and be like the academic golden child of your homeschool, but you're still missing out on a ton of different things. So I mean, there are definitely pros. Like, we get to spend more time with my family, and we can go take a road trip in October if we want to, and go to a national park when nobody else is there because everyone else is in school. So yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, we're all 5 to 10 years out of that homeschooling experience now. I think we all turned out pretty decently compared to your average person, whether they're homeschooled or public school or private schooled. So I think eventually you get to the same place, is if you're smart enough to kind of learn that on your own when you need to. But I don't know. Like anything, pros and cons. I'm not going to come out here and say it was the worst experience of my life, because there are parts that were great. And there are parts that sucked, not so much while you were in it, but kind of learning about after. So,
in retrospect, for sure.
There were enough things that were really tough after that made me not want to, or make me not want to do it with people I raise in the future. But but I see the merits of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's just a lot of pros and cons. I think one weird thing that you don't, and I guess it's because this is more or less, it's not as much homeschool. Well, if you were straight up homeschooled, this would be a problem. But it has to do more with, like, the moral objections and stuff like that. Of, like, a lot of us had rules where it's like, oh no, you can't date people. Like, that's not a thing. Like, you You can't be physical with somebody and stuff like that. And yet it runs rampant a lot of times in middle school. And I feel like that's a weird missed opportunity because there's something to understand as far as like social language. That's like something that's like
Definitely.
kind of, but that also has its pros and cons too, because the fact that it's like, I mean, everybody's experienced heartbreak before, and it's like, that's definitely, the feeling of that cannot be good in the long run. You know what I'm saying? Especially doing that from a young age and doing that a lot, and that happening a lot. I mean, that's got to be pretty damaging. Yeah. So there's a lot of pros and cons, but just being able to understand those social gymnastics is a pretty neat thing to learn.
I think the thing that's interesting that I would really like, because I don't think I've really met anyone that has been homeschooled without some type of religious background. Because I think that plays a huge... Yeah, I feel like that plays a huge portion in like what you were just saying. Because a lot of that comes from, biblical principles, from the background that like...
Oh, yeah.
Because we had the same whole thing.
It's like the same speech with everybody where it's like, they're religious and they're like, oh yeah, Abraham Lincoln was also religious, and guess what? He was homeschooled. And it's like, yeah, everyone back then was homeschooled. But that was like the quick speech. Yeah. It's like how it goes. It's like, Jesus, Abraham Lincoln, you're homeschooled now. It's like, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
So.
Was Reagan homeschooled?
No way. Reagan was an actor. Reagan was a lot more of a... there's a reason why he was a Republican, and it was because, got to protect that B-horror movie, those B-horror movie funds from back in the day. Less taxation. But yeah, he's got to be public schooled. Plus, like, getting into, like, do you guys know anybody who's straight from homeschool went straight Ivy League?
No.
I think it's probably impossible, right?
It's pretty tough.
Like, it'd be like, you'd have to score perfect ACTs, and you'd have to probably maybe intern for a senator in high school or something like that.
Well,
like,
that's the thing, too, is you'd really have to go out of your way to find things, because these things aren't offered, obviously, in homeschool or even, like, the co-op. Like, you don't have these extra clubs or, different groups you can be a part of that, like, look good on paper type of thing to get you into a school like that, because so much of that has to do with all the other extra stuff you're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I mean, I've known a lot of people that have gone to really prestigious colleges at some point, but I don't know I don't think that any of them have been right out of...
What's the most prestigious name you know of from a homeschool person to go to for their undergrad? Do you know?
Oh, you guys.
See, that was what I was thinking.
Not,
I didn't want to sound pretentious.
No, not like...
well, I think...
was it Walt, because you went to DePaul right off the bat, and I don't know where did Jack go?
They both went to Northwestern.
Okay, so yeah, Northwestern is like probably like the one that I was like, because a lot of people went to Loyola.
Wait, did you go there? Did you go to Rock Valley at all?
Yeah, for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so did Walt and Jack. They went from
Okay.
See, that's like the weird thing is like, I mean, like that's a fascinating experiment that none of us did, because we actually talk all this shit you want about Rock Valley, but it's a good institution to
and
get you...
And it is so needed in Rockford, too. I feel like that's the perfect...
Hardcore.
That one's dead.
No, it's fine.
Roll with it. I'll just smile at this.
Yeah.
Well, I think one went to... Didn't she go to Penn State or something like that?
Sarah went... No, not even Penn State. Penn State's not that
or
good
not,
she went to Penn.
Penn, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Should be named after, but whatever.
Well, I was just trying to use
No, I know. Yeah, totally. She definitely went to Penn.
I feel like there's another one.
But I don't know if she went to Penn. She, of course, went to...
No, she might have went somewhere. She went to Rock Valley for sure, and she might have gone somewhere else after that, too.
Yeah.
I feel like if anything, it's usually like Rock Valley, then like NIU, and then sometimes after NIU, jump off into something.
Yeah.
If I would have gone anywhere, like locally, it probably would have been NIU, probably.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of guys in the engineering program there, so that wouldn't have been a big jump at all. So, yeah. But never... I don't know her exact... I know she ended up going there, but Yeah, I'd say Northwestern and Penn are like the two big ones. But of course, it kind of like negates it because we all went to Rock Valley, so it's just like, I don't know. That would have been fascinating to see someone, because I mean, I've never even taken the ACT or SAT before ever. I've been able to wiggle through all that stuff. So
it's interesting though. I don't feel like I know a lot of, and I mean, I don't really know how that. I should ask like someone who's actually gone to like public school, but I don't feel like I know a lot of people that went with like a very traditional, like even if you went to some prestigious school, it wasn't for like even maybe what that prestigious school is known for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know many people who went to medical school like out after school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I feel like we went to school with a decent amount of intelligent people. But as far as them taking a very, like, and this could just be human nature, too, like, nobody knows what they want to do, and school is so expensive that you really have to think, like, 3 times about what you really want to do before you jump into all the loans and everything. But as far as, like, going to, you know, the route of, like, something, quote-unquote, like, accomplished or prestigious or whatever, like law school or medical school or, you know, engineering even, I don't know. I feel like we've known a lot of people that I feel like have like maybe taken a while to get there. But I don't know. But maybe that's true of just like anybody. It's just trying to kind of fizzle into what you want your path to be takes longer than just being like, oh no, I know I'm going to medical school, like right out of school and doing this and blah, 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 and having a clear-cut idea.
I feel like millennials are a weird bunch purely based off the fact that it's
and maybe that's it too. I don't know.
I just don't know a lot of people that had like, oh yeah, I went for my undergrad 4 years, I went to my master's 2 years, did my doctorate for 2 years, now I'm done. Or, you know, however long certain doctorate programs can go. Because I just had a friend that just finished their biomed engineering undergrad at University of Nebraska. Took them like 9 years. And I don't even know if they were going on and off. And I'm like, I know that there was a change in there because it was like something like went from physics to engineering and from that engineering to biomed engineering, like this whole route. Yeah. But it's like everybody's story is like so different. You know what I'm saying? I don't know many of like the cut and paste, like, I don't know. It's really weird.
And maybe that's just me being like going back to my naivety of like a teenager. That's how I just thought that's how it went. Like you knew exactly, and like you went 4 years here and then 2 years here if you wanted, or like whatever.
Well, you were a special case that you had that all wrapped up. You know, you knew exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we all make mistakes. It's fine.
But
it's a mistake that pays bills though, so it's not bad.
I mean, that's
dead inside.
It's true.
Dead inside.
At what cost? So we're going to take another break, and we'll be back momentarily.
We're back from our break, and we're closing out this Grounded podcast, the second ever of its sort. And we're basically just 3 homeschoolers who are indifferent towards homeschooling, I guess. I guess that's kind of like the whole thing that we kind of brought out of this conversation. And it's glad we were able to talk about it. I don't really have any additional closing thoughts. Quinn David Furness, check him out on the Beantown Podcast. You know him, you love him. The Beantown Podcast is great. I listen to it every time that it's up. I probably won't listen to the most recent one because I'm a part of it, so I was like, I got it.
That's how I feel about all of them.
That is the worst part about doing this, though, is like going back to make sure everything's okay, and you're like, I don't want to listen to this again.
I mean, right? That's why I don't listen to your guys, because like I don't want to listen to this because you're part of it.
Yeah,
like, exactly.
I don't want to listen to like, your podcast. So.
Exactly.
Ryan's like, I know. Yeah, no, it's horrible.
I'm down. I mean, I got you, man. I got you. Yeah, those podcasts typically come out on the weekends, kind of similar to ours. yeah, it's been a great experience, you know?
Totally.
Homeschooling. Homeschooling.
To reminisce.
Yeah. All right, well, until the next one. That's your sign off?
What am I supposed to say?
I was expecting like a Queen wave, like a...
Click here to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do that.
Oh, there you
Exactly.
go. Perfect. Do you
Put it
want
in
a Queen
every-
wave?
No, I just, we'll see you guys, all of you, all 8 of you. Love you.
You guys have 25 subscribers on YouTube.
Some of them are probably bots.
Yeah, definitely.
Russian hackers.
Yeah. I always look at Kristen's Instagram followers and I'm like, oh, like, you have a lot of, like, they're probably all bots.
They're all bots. Fake.
Yeah.
Fake news.
Fake news.
I will sometimes legitimately get on Twitter and read those in that
You got this shit knocking though.